The Airsoft sporting goods store occupies a retail space in a shopping center, featuring large windows displaying replica firearms designed for recreational shooting sports. The business has operated for 11 years, becoming a popular destination for enthusiasts participating in airsoft competitions and tactical training exercises using non-lethal replica weapons. The store maintains all required business licenses and sells products that appear completely legal under regulations governing airsoft equipment, which are classified as toys rather than firearms because they fire plastic pellets using compressed air rather than gunpowder propulsion. The owner presents himself as an enthusiast, dedicated to promoting safe recreational shooting sports. He sponsors local airsoft teams, organizes competitions at nearby fields, and emphasizes safety training for customers purchasing replica equipment. The store offers hundreds of airsoft models replicating real firearms in appearance, but functioning only as low-powered recreational devices. Customer reviews praise the owner's knowledge, competitive pricing, and commitment to the airsoft community. Law enforcement officers occasionally shop at the store, purchasing training replicas for use in scenarios where live weapons would be inappropriate. What customers and regulators don't realize is that the recreational equipment business serves as cover for illegal firearms manufacturing through modification of airsoft replicas. The owner operates a hidden workshop where he converts certain airsoft models into functional firearms capable of firing live ammunition. The modifications transform legal recreational equipment into illegal weapons that appear identical to their airsoft originals, but possess lethal capabilities. The operation exploits the fine line between legal replicas and illegal firearms, using legitimate business activity to conceal systematic weapons manufacturing. The scheme began 8 years ago, when the owner discovered that certain airsoft models use internal mechanisms similar enough to real firearms that they can be modified to chamber and fire live ammunition with appropriate engineering modifications. The initial experiments involved replacing airsoft barrels with rifled barrels capable of handling real cartridges, reinforcing internal components to withstand gunpowder pressures, and modifying trigger mechanisms to reliably fire conventional ammunition. The successful conversions created weapons that maintained their replica appearance while gaining lethal functionality. The owner's technical background in mechanical engineering and his extensive knowledge of firearms design enabled sophisticated modifications that less knowledgeable individuals couldn't achieve. He identified specific airsoft models with internal dimensions and construction that could be modified most easily, focusing on these platforms for his conversion operations. The modifications required precision machining, metallurgical knowledge, and understanding of firearms ballistics to create reliably functional weapons rather than dangerous malfunctions. The professional quality of conversions indicated serious engineering expertise applied to illegal purposes. The business model exploits regulatory gaps between airsoft equipment and actual firearms. Airsoft replicas don't require federal licensing or background checks because they're not classified as weapons under firearms regulations. The owner purchases airsoft models through normal wholesale channels, converts them in his hidden workshop, then sells the modified weapons as training models or demonstration units to customers who understand they're purchasing functional firearms without the documentation and background checks required for legal purchases. The system moves converted weapons into circulation through channels that appear to involve only legal recreational equipment. The workshop operates in a storage area behind the retail space, accessible through an employees-only door that customers never see. The area contains precision machine tools, firearms components, and partially completed conversion projects. The owner performs all modification work personally, maintaining strict operational security by never involving employees in the illegal operations. Most staff believe the rear area simply contains inventory storage and business records, unaware that systematic weapons manufacturing occurs feet away from the sales floor where they help customers select recreational airsoft equipment. The conversion process typically requires 8 to 12 hours per weapon, depending on the model and modifications needed. The owner replaces the airsoft barrel with a rifled steel barrel manufactured to proper dimensions for specific ammunition. He reinforces the receiver and bolt assembly using hardened steel components that can withstand firing pressures. He modifies the trigger mechanism for reliable ignition of primers. He test fires each converted weapon to ensure functionality and reliability before sale. The professional approach produces weapons that function as reliably as commercially manufactured firearms, despite their disguised origins as recreational replicas. Distribution happens through multiple channels that provide plausible deniability about the weapon's true nature. Some customers purchase directly from the store, with the owner providing converted weapons in packaging identical to normal airsoft products, but with verbal understanding that they're functional firearms. Other sales occur through encrypted online platforms where the owner advertises modified training equipment to buyers who understand the coded language. Some weapons get distributed through intermediaries who resell to criminal networks, creating layers between the owner and end users who employ the converted weapons in crimes. The pricing structure reflects the illegal nature of transactions and the value of weapons that avoid normal regulatory channels. Standard airsoft replicas retail for $200 to $500 depending on quality. The owner charges $1,500 to $3,000 for converted weapons, depending on the model and requested modifications. The substantial markup generates enormous profits compared to selling legitimate airsoft equipment, with the illegal conversion operation generating 10 times the revenue of the legitimate retail business, despite processing far fewer units. Revenue from illegal conversions allows the owner to maintain and expand his legitimate business as perfect cover. He uses illegal proceeds to stock extensive airsoft inventory, rent prime retail space, and sponsor community events that enhance his reputation as a dedicated supporter of recreational shooting sports. The improving business success actually results from criminal activity rather than exceptional retail performance. But everyone attributes it to his business acumen and commitment to customer service. The perfect cover allows systematic illegal manufacturing to continue for years without suspicion. Federal investigators first noticed the operation when converted weapons begin appearing at crime scenes across 4 states. Forensic examiners analyzing firearms used in serious crimes discover weapons that appear to be airsoft replicas externally, but function as actual firearms internally. The pattern initially seems isolated, perhaps individual criminals attempting amateur modifications. But as more examples accumulate, investigators recognize professional quality conversions, suggesting a skilled source rather than scattered amateur efforts. The consistency of modification techniques across weapons found in different jurisdictions indicates a common manufacturer. The investigation focuses on identifying businesses or individuals with both access to airsoft replicas and the technical capability to perform sophisticated conversions. Agents review businesses selling airsoft equipment, cross-referencing these against indicators of potential illegal activity, such as unusual financial patterns or suspicious customer complaints. The owner's store emerges as a candidate when investigators notice he purchases substantially more wholesale airsoft inventory than his documented retail sales suggest, indicating products are leaving the business through undocumented channels. Financial analysis reveals additional anomalies, suggesting unreported business activity. The store's reported revenue seems low relative to its prime retail location and extensive inventory. Bank deposits show structured patterns suggesting attempts to avoid reporting thresholds. The owner's personal lifestyle includes property purchases and investments inconsistent with the income a small airsoft retail business would generate. The financial footprint indicates substantial unreported income from sources the legitimate business operations don't explain. Surveillance teams deploy to observe the store and the owner's activities. They document normal retail operations during business hours. But notice the owner frequently works alone in the back storage area during evening hours after staff have left. Delivery trucks arrive occasionally with shipments that don't match wholesale airsoft inventory orders tracked through suppliers. Some customers exhibit behavior suggesting they're not typical recreational enthusiasts, entering briefly and leaving with packages that receive unusual care rather than casual treatment of sporting goods purchases. An undercover operation begins when investigators learn through informants that certain customers can acquire special inventory from the store. An agent poses as a buyer seeking weapons without the background checks and documentation required for legal purchases. Initial contact happens through an intermediary who claims connections to a source who can provide realistic training equipment with full functionality. The intermediary eventually arranges an introduction to the owner after weeks of building credibility. The meeting with the owner happens at the store after closing hours. The owner is cautious, questioning the agent extensively about his needs and background before discussing any products beyond standard airsoft equipment. Eventually satisfied the agent represents no threat, the owner hints that he can provide modified training models that exceed standard specifications for customers with specific requirements. He shows the agent an externally normal-appearing airsoft replica, then demonstrates that it functions as an actual firearm by firing live ammunition. The demonstration proves the conversions are professional quality and reliably functional. The first purchase happens after the agent expresses strong interest and agrees to the substantial price. The owner provides a converted weapon in normal airsoft packaging with verbal instructions to handle it as a real firearm despite its replica appearance. The agent receives documentation suggesting a normal airsoft purchase, maintaining plausible deniability about the transaction's actual nature. Forensic analysis confirms the weapon is a sophisticated conversion capable of reliable operation with live ammunition, validating years of investigative work tracing converted weapons to their source. Additional purchases over 12 weeks document the full scope of the operation. The agent orders various models, learning which airsoft platforms the owner prefers for conversions and understanding his modification techniques. The owner grows comfortable discussing his engineering background and the technical challenges of creating reliable conversions. He mentions having performed hundreds of modifications over many years, indicating systematic long-term operations rather than occasional custom work. Each conversation provides additional evidence of knowing intentional illegal manufacturing. Digital forensics teams obtain warrants for the store's computer systems, recovering evidence through forensic examination of files the owner believed were deleted. They discover CAD designs for modification components, spreadsheets tracking conversion inventory separate from legitimate airsoft sales, and communications with buyers discussing modified weapons. The digital evidence provides comprehensive documentation of systematic illegal operations conducted alongside and concealed within the legitimate retail business. Federal prosecutors coordinate with state and local authorities to plan simultaneous operations, securing the store and the owner's residence. The warrants must cover the retail space, the hidden workshop, all computers and records, the owner's home, and vehicles potentially used to transport converted weapons. Tactical teams rehearse procedures for executing coordinated raids that secure all locations simultaneously, preventing destruction of evidence or warnings between sites. The operation launches on a Thursday morning before the store opens. Federal agents and local police secure the building perimeter before entering through front and rear access points. They detain the owner as he arrives to open the store, preventing access to the workshop where evidence might be destroyed. Tactical teams immediately search for the modification workshop, locating it behind the storage area exactly where surveillance and informant information suggested. The workshop contains everything investigators expected: machine tools, conversion components, partially completed projects, and technical documentation. The discovery validates years of investigation. Agents find over 40 weapons in various stages of conversion, from airsoft originals awaiting modification to completed conversions ready for distribution. They seize machine tools, modification components, and technical manuals describing conversion procedures. Computer systems contain design files, inventory records, and communications with buyers. The evidence comprehensively documents systematic illegal firearms manufacturing concealed within a legitimate airsoft retail business. The simultaneous search of the owner's residence yields additional evidence, including financial records documenting illegal proceeds, communications with buyers and intermediaries, and personal notes describing modification techniques. The owner apparently kept detailed records of his conversion operations, documenting technical improvement and tracking which models produce the most reliable results. The personal documentation demonstrates pride in his engineering accomplishments, despite their illegal application. Store employees express shock upon learning about the illegal manufacturing operation. Most worked at the business for years without any knowledge of conversion activities occurring in the back workshop. They believed the owner simply managed inventory and business operations in the rear area, never suspecting systematic weapons manufacturing. Some employees remember customers who seemed unusual for typical airsoft enthusiasts, but assumed everyone had different reasons for purchasing recreational equipment and never questioned customer motivations. Media coverage emphasizes how the owner exploited legitimate retail business to conceal illegal firearms manufacturing, converting legal recreational replicas into functional weapons that entered criminal circulation. Stories focus on specific crimes committed with converted weapons, illustrating the human cost of the owner's operations. The case generates discussion about whether regulations governing airsoft equipment need enhancement to prevent conversion into functional firearms. The investigation expands to trace converted weapons through distribution networks extending across 4 states. Federal agents work with local police to identify all buyers who purchased converted weapons, determining their involvement in criminal activities. Some buyers used weapons in serious crimes, including armed robberies and assaults. Others resold to criminal networks, creating distribution chains that put dozens of converted weapons into circulation far from their origin. The effort to trace all converted weapons becomes an extensive multi-state operation. Financial forensics document the full extent of illegal proceeds over 8 years. The owner converted over 800 weapons, generating approximately $2 million in illegal revenue that he laundered through his legitimate business and various investments. He reported modest income from airsoft retail while actually earning 10 times that amount from illegal conversions. The financial fraud compounds the weapons charges, demonstrating systematic money laundering alongside illegal manufacturing. Trial proceedings begin 10 months after arrest. The owner faces dozens of charges, including illegal firearms manufacturing, interstate trafficking, money laundering, fraud, and conspiracy spanning 8 years. Prosecutors present overwhelming evidence, including the seized workshop and conversion equipment, recordings of the undercover agent's transactions, forensic analysis of converted weapons from crime scenes, and financial records documenting millions in illegal proceeds. Expert witnesses explain the technical sophistication required for the conversions, emphasizing that these were professional engineering projects rather than crude modifications. The defense attempts to argue that the conversions don't technically constitute manufacturing of new firearms, but rather modification of existing airsoft equipment, claiming ambiguity in regulations. This argument fails against clear evidence that the owner transformed non-firearms into functional weapons, capable of lethal force, meeting all legal definitions of firearms manufacturing. Expert testimony establishes that the converted weapons function identically to commercially manufactured firearms, supporting charges of illegal manufacturing. rather than mere modification. Conviction comes after a 5-week trial. Jurors find the owner guilty on all counts, determining that he knowingly operated an illegal firearms manufacturing operation, using his airsoft business as cover. The conviction validates the investigation and provides accountability for 8 years of systematic conversion operations that put hundreds of weapons into criminal circulation. Sentencing occurs 6 weeks after conviction. Federal guidelines call for substantial prison time given the quantity of weapons converted, the sophistication of operations, the duration of criminal activity, and the violent crimes enabled by converted weapons. Prosecutors argue for maximum sentences, emphasizing that the owner exploited legitimate business and his engineering expertise to manufacture weapons that helped criminals avoid background checks and documentation required for legal firearms purchases. The judge sentences the owner to 29 years in federal prison. The sentence includes 20 years for manufacturing and trafficking charges, 6 years for money laundering, and 3 years for fraud, with terms running partially consecutively. The judge also orders forfeiture of the business, all workshop equipment, properties purchased with illegal proceeds, and restitution totaling $1 million. The harsh sentence reflects the serious nature of exploiting legitimate business to manufacture weapons used in violent crimes. Civil asset forfeiture proceedings seize the retail store. All inventory, workshop equipment, vehicles, and properties purchased with illegal proceeds. The total value exceeds $3 million. The store property sells to new ownership who operate a completely different business, eliminating any association with the conversion operations. The seized airsoft inventory gets donated to youth recreational programs after verification that none are converted weapons. The case prompts discussion about potential regulatory changes for airsoft equipment. Some advocates call for enhanced restrictions on models most easily converted into functional firearms, while others argue that regulations would burden legitimate recreational users, while determined criminals would find alternative methods. Industry organizations representing airsoft manufacturers and retailers develop voluntary standards designed to make conversions more difficult, implementing design changes that increase the technical challenges of creating functional firearms from recreational replicas. Law enforcement training programs incorporate the case as an example of how legitimate businesses can conceal illegal manufacturing through exploitation of products with dual-use potential. Training emphasizes the importance of recognizing conversion operations and understanding technical indicators that distinguish professional conversions from amateur attempts. The case becomes required study for investigators learning to identify illegal firearms manufacturing hidden within apparently legitimate commercial operations. 3 years after the operation's dismantling, federal agents continue tracing converted weapons as they appear in investigations and crime scenes. Some weapons converted 8 years earlier are just now being recovered, having circulated through multiple owners before coming to law enforcement attention. Each recovery provides additional evidence of the operation's scope, and sometimes leads to arrests of individuals who purchased or possessed the converted weapons, knowing they were illegal firearms. For the airsoft recreational community, the case creates brief concerns about increased regulatory scrutiny of legitimate activities. Most enthusiasts and businesses strongly condemn the owner's exploitation of recreational equipment for illegal purposes. Industry associations emphasize that the vast majority of airsoft participants use equipment only for its intended recreational purposes, and that this was an isolated case of criminal abuse rather than an industry-wide problem. 5 years after the case, the airsoft industry operates with enhanced awareness of conversion risks and voluntary measures designed to prevent misuse. Manufacturers implement design features, making conversions more technically challenging. Retailers receive training to identify suspicious purchase patterns that might indicate buyers intend illegal conversions. The industry largely supports reasonable measures, preventing criminal exploitation while protecting legitimate recreational use that millions enjoy safely. The story concludes with recognition that products existing in regulatory gray areas between toys and weapons can be exploited by individuals with technical expertise and criminal intent. The Airsoft conversion case demonstrated how legitimate retail business and recreational equipment can be weaponized through engineering modifications that transform legal products into illegal firearms. But once investigators recognized patterns of professionally converted weapons and traced them to their source, comprehensive investigation assembled overwhelming evidence leading to successful prosecution. Vigilance in monitoring businesses selling products with potential for conversion into weapons remains essential for detecting illegal manufacturing operations. The owner succeeded for 8 years because his legitimate business provided perfect cover, and his technical expertise enabled professional quality conversions that casual oversight wouldn't detect. Only careful investigation, triggered by patterns of converted weapons at crime scenes, eventually exposed the systematic manufacturing operation hiding behind recreational equipment sales. The work of preventing such exploitation never ends, requiring sustained attention to how legitimate products might be misused by those willing to apply technical skills to criminal purposes.